new undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion after an Avengers Endgames like main event. Cody Rhodes, much to my dismay. And if you haven't checked it out, go on my TikTok at real_people the last few days. We've been doing podcasts in the street, talking about the American Nightmare, talking about how the sport of professional wrestling is cool again. And it was all thanks to this storyline. Cody Rhodes, the new face of WWE. The story, the story, the story. Everybody wanted to see Cody finish his story. And now he finished the story. Now, just a little background before I let Josh Ungar go. After the match on Saturday night, which of course saw Bloodline rules was able to become about after 45 minutes between The Rock, the Tribal Chief, the American Nightmare, the Visionary. I had texted this man, Mr. Unger, that Sunday morning. I basically said, your thoughts on the match. I'm excited for tonight. Let's do this. And Josh Unger literally texted back, nah, I'm just going to sit there because it's going to be bad. And last night's main event was bad, and I'm going to hate it. So then I texted him after it went off the air, and Josh said, nah, it wasn't that bad. So, Josh, way to go out there. Your thoughts. The American Nightmare is now the new face of WWE.
So let me say this. Thank you, Cody Rhodes, for ending the ridiculously long title reign of Roman Lames. Now we'll actually have a champion who appears on TV and doesn't need freaking ref spots and bloodline interference to successfully retain his championship.
The fact you're so mad is the reason why he's such a great heel.
I got so sick and tired of Roman Reigns. I'm sorry, the main event on Saturday was absolute trash. It was
Oh,
boring.
see, I don't know. It was 45 minutes of pure greatness, but it was absolute trash.
Yes, it was. It was absolute trash.
In,
I
in
hate it.
what way was seeing The Rock in the haven't wrestled in 10 years in the best shape of his life go for 45 minutes, beating the hell out of Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins going all over the building, Rock and Cody going all over the building? In what way was that trash?
I just found the whole match
Oh,
boring.
what about it was boring. You just can't say boring without giving a reason. Why? Because The Rock won.
No, it. I didn't like. Yeah, they hit each other with trash cans, and they had some nice spots on the stage and stuff, but I didn't see anything that I'm like, oh my god, that was incredible. It was all just kind of for me. Which most of night one was that way, but in terms of Sunday night's main event, I thought there was going to be a little more blood and violence because it was bloodline rules, and the way they had built. Excuse me, they had the way they had been building up this storyline, with The Rock completely just utterly killing Cody on Monday Night Raw a couple weeks ago in Chicago and just wrecking him beyond belief. So I thought we'd get some element of that, but we didn't. Instead, we got John Cena, we got The Undertaker, which was kind of cool, although I know everybody was expecting that glass to break.
I actually think Taker's spot worked better. And there's a theory on that I read that I actually believe, and I don't know if I'll get into it on the air or not, but I actually believe this theory.
So,
Oh, look at that. Go on Reddit and check it out for yourself. I don't remember the exact Reddit user, but it actually had something to do with Bray Wyatt, where pretty much because Roman Reigns was the one who obviously ended the Fiend's title reign the way the reign started. The Undertaker living through Bray Wyatt, essentially, as we know, hitting that choke slam on The Rock was Bray's way of ending the title reign, which I thought was pretty cool.
huh. I'd, I'd have to think about that, but that would be an interesting connection if, in fact, that's true. But we'll see. my guess is Cody's going to defend the title against somebody at SummerSlam in Cleveland. It could be The Rock.
I
It
think it is. I think based off last night, I think that's where we're headed. I think there's only one of two options. I think it's Cody versus Rock, or I think it's Cody Roman 3.
I could, since it's in Cleveland, maybe they take the U.S. title from Logan Paul and then have him face.
No, that's not a SummerSlam match. The you have built this story for Cody that literally only Roman and Rock are the two levels at SummerSlam you can do.
What if they say Rock versus Cody for WrestleMania 41,
They're
though?
not. WrestleMania 41 will be Roman versus Rock night 2. Main event. You can
Hmm.
mark it right here today.
Which it sounds like, by the way, WrestleMania 41 is going to be in Minnesota, although they haven't officially announced that
Sounds like
yet.
Minnesota or Vegas. Sounds like Minnesota is likely. I think there's a lot of night one possibilities. You could do Seth Rollins Punk. You could do Rollins Punk McIntyre. You could have Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley, which I think would definitely be on the table. There, you could do Charlotte, Bailey, Becky triple threat, which I think could absolutely be on the table. Um, there's a lot of night one options. I think night two is certainly Rock Roman booked in stone. Um,
But
Listen,
overall, I liked this. It's the first Roman Reigns match where I'm like, oh, I didn't hate that. There were elements of it where I'm just like, okay, this is kind of getting slow. But, when Seth came out with the Shield music and you
who
had,
who else thought for a second it was going to be Dean Ambrose? Who thought for 1 second?
I knew it was going to be Seth.
You did not lose your mind for 1 second when Corey Graves kept saying, "Guys, guys."
No, Moxley's not leaving AEW, and
I'm not saying he would have left AEW. I'm saying for a cameo.
Triple H wouldn't have allowed that anyway. So no.
Well, I don't know. This is a new regime, a new era, the Paul Levesque era.
Yeah. Um.
Who is more over than Cody Rhodes, by the way. Let me just point that out.
That
Okay,
was that was kind of funny.
we we have our undisputed champion who everybody so loves. He's falling in the ring. I just Brandon Cody. This is why Roman Reigns should have retained the undisputed championship. But we got to move on. We got to talk about the new world heavyweight champion. Yes, yes, yes. For all of you out there who thought Damian Priest can't get it, the worst money in the bank ever, folks, this was their plan all along. Damian Priest did what Edge did with it basically, 15 years ago, whatever it was, when he first held the briefcase. You don't got to cash it in when the guy's first down. You got to pick your moment. The rules
That's what
say
Seth Rollins did at WrestleMania 31.
the rules say you have a full year to cash in this money in the bank. He didn't have to do it at SummerSlam. He didn't have to do it at Fastlane. He didn't have to do it the first Raw of the year. He had to do it at WrestleMania when CM Punk swooped that leg and it fit everybody's character perfectly. Drew McIntyre finally getting his moment to win at WrestleMania, but he couldn't stand the fact that CM Punk was at ringside. He had to rub it in Punk's face, and it cost him. And the same guy who Drew was feuding with at the start of the year, Drew McIntyre, hates that Money in the Bank briefcase because it not only cost the WWE Championship during the Thunderdome era, but it cost him again here. What magical, beautiful storytelling that will eventually lead us to CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, hopefully First Energy Stadium, Cleveland, Ohio, August 3rd, 2024.
Which, let me just speak on that for a second. With the way Drew is showing his hatred towards CM Punk, I don't think that has to be a match for the World Heavyweight Championship. You can make it a non-title match.
You absolutely could, but boy, would I love it because I want to see Punk win that belt in Cleveland.
I have to. Okay, you know how I feel about CM Punk.
This man called him CM Pinky a couple weeks ago.
Yes, I have to admit something. This spot and that ruse by CM Punk made my hatred for him go down a little bit. I'm
All
not.
he did was sweep his leg.
I I thought it was genius the way he did it. He takes off the arm brace and just sweeps his leg, and I'm like, this is brilliant by CM Punk. And I'm like, okay, I'm s- I can I'm starting to come around a little bit. My hatred's still pretty high, but it's come down a little bit. I'm not going to get into all the AEW CM Punk backstage footage.
No, we will not.
I,
I
I,
don't even know what to say about that. By the way,
as an
if
A,
I
let me just say this:
go ahead, and then I got something to say.
as an AEW fan, I get that like that it's the Young Bucks doing this because they want to bring back Jack Perry. That's the whole reason they're doing this, and they want to embarrass CM Punk and all that. But I'm just like, why are we still holding on to this story? Like, move on. Like,
So, two things I'll say about it, and then we'll move on to the women's stuff. Number one is I said this would be like if WWE released the footage when CM Punk quit 10 years ago, um, which they would never do because they're a professional company. And number two is maybe it's just me, but the ending where everybody's lifting Cody Rhodes up on his shoulders and Bruce Pritchard comes out and Triple H comes out. Maybe it's just me and I'm reading too much into it, but did you think that was just the tiny bit of shot at AEW for saying, look at the guy that you let get away? The guy that started that company is now the kingpin in our company with everybody basically on the roster celebrating his victory and crowning him the new man to lead WWE into this new Paul Triple H Levesque era.
it could be, but I want to get back to Damian Priest. Do you think he's going to have a long title reign, or is he more of a transitional champion?
By the way, I was shocked that McIntyre even used the verbiage last night on Raw. That was something. Um, but I don't think I think he will have a decent title reign. I don't know if it lasts to SummerSlam. I think him and Jay will face off at Backlash, where Jimmy will probably screw him out of the championship. Maybe we get a Priest McIntyre Punk triple threat somewhere along the lines. Where maybe it's Money in the Bank or somewhere like that. I think he will have a decent 3 to 4 month title reign, though. I don't think it's going to be quick.
Yeah, I don't think, given the way he held on to that Money in the Bank briefcase and the way he cashed it in, I don't think he should be a transitional champion.
Well, if you remember, Edge actually was. I mentioned when he cashed in 2006, he lost the title 3 weeks later to John Cena.
Yeah, I think Nikki Ash after she cashed in lost the title somewhat
Yeah,
quickly.
I, that was Vince booking. Nonetheless, the person who was involved in that rivalry, Rhea Ripley, mommy, she was able to defeat Becky Lynch, and I did type here in our graphic that Bailey also had a story to finish, and she did finish that story with Damage Control, finally becoming the women's champion, getting her moment. We all talked about it last week with Chris, aka C Boss Gaming, on the show. We thought Ripley and Becky was matches of the weekend. It definitely was. I thought the entrances for both women was incredible. I thought it was a perfect way to start night one. I was a little bit shocked by the outcome, but after Damian Priest cashed in the Money in the Bank and percent, I am more interested because now it looks like Rhea is getting involved in a rivalry with Liv Morgan. I am curious to see where Becky goes. There's a lot of speculation that Becky Lynch could turn heel, but not be the big time Bex character she was in 2022, be a very ruthless heel as a character, which I'd be very fascinated to see because Becky, even though she won the NXT Women's Championship, she has not held a main roster championship since losing in that incredible night one match to Bianca Belair 2 years ago for the Raw Women's Championship.
Yeah, you are right about that. And we'll get into, match of the night for Saturday and Sunday later. But I'm just going to spoil it now. Night one, for me, Becky versus Rhea was match of the night. I absolutely loved this match from start to finish. The way they were kicking out of each other's finishers and countering each other. It was fantastic. Um, in terms of Bailey versus Io Sky, I thought that was also a really good match. I am surprised though that it was just a straight up one-on-one match. I thought for sure Asuka, uh, Kairi Sane, and Dakota Kai would come out and cause some sort of interference and try and help Io Sky. I was
What I hope this leads to is the eventual dissolve of Damage Control, and maybe we do get the eventual triple threat that I wanted at this show, which is Bailey, Io, Dakota, the three original members of Damage Control. I never thought Io and Bailey was going to be a fantastic match. For the record, I thought Io was one of the. You guys all thought Roman was a terrible champion. I thought Io Sky was one of the worst women's champions ever. She has no charisma. She can barely speak. She barely had any championship reigns. It was a very boring and forgetful reign. That really the only reason why we knew she was champion was because of Bailey. And so I'm glad that Bailey now takes his momentum. I'd like to see a rivalry with Tiffany Stratton, who
that would be
I
fantastic.
think Tiffy Time is going to be champion here real soon, aka a candidate to win Miss Money in the Bank later this year. Um, you
Don't
know,
forget about somebody who debuted on the Raw after Mania last night, the new NXT Women's Champion, Roxanne
I was
Perez.
not that impressed by Roxanne Perez. I'll just say that now. Um, there's not a lot of heels right now in the women's division on SmackDown. That's why I think we got the draft coming up. Um, but I'm excited to see what Bailey can do as a babyface with a championship because she hasn't had a babyface title run since she was the Raw Women's Champion. Or no, I'm sorry, she was the SmackDown Women's Champion for a little bit. I almost forgot she won Money in the Bank and cashed in that same night on Charlotte. Um, so
Yep, that's right.
so
But
she was the SmackDown Women's Champion for a little bit, but in terms of a legitimate championship run, she hasn't really had it for about 7, 8 years.
I hope that with Bailey as champion, she does not go back to the I'm a hugger character with those inflatable waving things.
I thought for a second there was going to be a callback, at least in her entrance at Mania. I would have been okay with that. Um, but ultimately, they obviously went with a different direction. But in the end, the only thing I'm happy about is she's still champion.
Yep. Um, like
She
I
was
said, though, I thought Damage Control would try and interfere in some fashion in the match. I really did. But did you hear what happened with Becky and Rhea? Like, Becky was wrestling that
Becky
match.
was wrestling with strep throat. Rhea apparently had a panic attack 2 hours before the match, and then they went out and did that.
I know. The like that just makes that match even more incredible for me. I,
Okay, so we got to talk about over the entire weekend which match stole the show. I think it's pretty obvious. Rock and Cody obviously had their thing. I think if you could sort of disqualify that, outside of the whole bloodline stuff, which match, I guess the best way to put it, the most underrated.
I mean, I can't really speak on anything that happened at Stand and Deliver because I haven't gone back and watched that yet. So I can't say Carmelo Hayes versus Trick Williams or the NXT Championship match, although I heard those two matches were very good. Um, but for me, it was the phenomenal AJ Styles versus LA Knight. I mean, the the way they were hitting those top rope spots, and
Yeah,
I absolutely loved this match. And I was in my Discord server, I was hyping it up,
yeah,
and it totally delivered.
yeah,
And I'm like, this is great. This is why I personally like the non-title feuds
yeah,
more than championship feuds. Because with the non-title feuds, you get more in it feels like the matches are more intense and they're more personal and you have more animosity. So they're going to punch each other harder. They're going to land bigger maneuvers. They're going to counter each other more. And it was just I freaking loved it.
So that's a really good match. There's a lot of other good candidates on there. Obviously, the undisputed tag team wider match. There's never been a bad wider match at WrestleMania, as we all talked about. They did eventually end up winning the tag titles, like we thought. That was a good match. The United States Championship match I thought was very good. Kevin
That
Owens,
match had me laughing for most of it
the
because
Kevin Owens driving Randy Orton down in the golf cart, Randy Orton kicking Logan Paul, social media boy, and then Logan Paul actually ended up retaining, which we all thought was not the case, but Logan Paul is still champion. Him and Rhea Ripley, the only two to retain their championships. And so then that leads me to what, in my opinion, was the most shocking outcome of the entire weekend. The underdog from the underground, Sami Zayn, actually did it with a brain buster, as Michael Cole would say. And then not one Huluva kick, not two Huluva kicks, but three Huluva kicks later, Sami Zayn knocked off the Intercontinental Champion, the Ring General, Gunther. And you kind of knew it when they kept showing Sammy's wife in the crowd. I was like, man, it's not a great sign for Gunther. But Gunther just kept power bombing Sammy and power bombing Sammy and power bombing Sammy. And Sami Zayn just kept fighting. And for me, that underdog, that Rocky story out of the whole weekend, I did not believe until that final and from the official hit three that Gunther's championship reign was actually ending.
I you at one point during that match, I'm just like, okay, ref, stop the match. Gunther is squashing him like a freaking tomato. I'm like, if he power bombs him again, I think juice might actually come out. Um, but let me just tell you this: that brain buster that Sammy hit on Gunther, I'm gonna say it right now. That was the single best move of WrestleMania. I went
Yeah,
crazy
I
when
think I
he
could concur with you. But at first, I was like, "Is that a?" I had to do a double take. I was like, "Is that a brain buster?" I was like, "What was that?" It wasn't. It was just a suplex on his freaking head from the top rope.
I mean, you don't really see a move like that in WWE. And for Sammy to pull it out against someone like Gunther on that stage, it was incredible. I really liked that match. The only reason I didn't give it match of the night for night one was because for most of it, like you said, Gunther was dominating. So for me, Rhea versus Becky gets the nod because that match felt very even. And at certain points, I'm like, Becky's gonna win. No, Rhea's gonna win. No, Becky's gonna win.
Yeah, I agree with you. Night one was not as good as night two. I'll get to night two. I think night two was a historically good WrestleMania night, regardless if it's two nights or not. I think that will go down as one of the best nights in WrestleMania history. For night one, I thought it was a good night. Away from the trends of the past, because usually night one was the night everybody went home happy, and then night two, all the heels won. A little bit of the opposite occasion this year, though a lot of baby faces still won. We talked about Gunther and Sammy, we talked about Rhea and Becky. So I'm gonna give flowers to the undisputed tag team title match because there were so many cool spots in that match. There were so many moments where, especially after Waller and Theory pulled down the SmackDown tag team titles, I thought Judgment Day could at one point retain the titles. Then I thought, maybe Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate could win them. Then DIY, that incredible white noise maneuver from Champa from to up of the ladder. You had Johnny Gargano, the DDT from the apron for the table, which was just nuts. So I really enjoyed that match. Again, I thought night one was very good. I thought it was decent for WrestleMania. There were a ton of night of the match of the year, matches throughout the whole weekend.
The one match that really disappointed me though on night one was Jimmy Uso versus Jay
See,
Uso.
everybody says that. I didn't think it was terrible. People were acting like the match was awful. I didn't think it was awful. I just didn't think they had enough time. I think they rushed the ending a little bit. And I think that it was more about it was more about the bloodline than them battling themselves, which is why I do think they are setting this up. It was almost like Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch when they had their rivalry last year. They had a couple matches that weren't that good, and then that steel cage match to end the rivalry was one of the best matches of the year. I think you could get something like that where it's, a street fight, tribal combat. Rikishi comes in, sort of deal that you could do it at Backlash or Clash of the Castle or wherever you want to do it.
Yeah, and by the way, I think my screen froze, so I'll have to try and
Your,
fix that.
your screen is frozen.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. I guess we're having a couple technical difficulties with that, but I thought with the Jimmy versus Jay, I thought Solo Sikoa would come out.
That too. That was what I was surprised about. There was no solo whatsoever.
Yeah, I thought there would be a ref spot and they would like hit each other in the backs with steel chairs or something, you know, because they they had built this match up and there was a lot of emotion going into it, and that's why I thought they did the women's the 6-woman tag team match afterwards, which I thought that was a very good match. And, you know,
It was for what it was, as I mentioned last week. That was all by the Jade Cargill showcase.
yeah. I think my computer just somehow reset. So hold on.
Oh, and I don't think Josh is here anymore. We'll find out. While Josh is away, let's move on to WrestleMania Sunday. You guys have probably heard my take on Brandon's World on this. Josh is back, but we don't have a camera. Do we have audio at least?
I think so.
Okay, so we have audio. We don't have a camera. So we'll just roll with it. Josh, let's go. Match of the night, WrestleMania Sunday. For me, it's gonna be Roman Cody. What about you?
AJ Styles versus LA Knight. I absolutely loved this match. Like I said earlier, the way they were countering each other, the top rope spots, when they went to the exposed floor and did stuff with that, I thought that was fantastic. This was another match, much like what I said about Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso. I thought there would be a ref spot and they would start slamming each other in the back with steel chairs, because that had been a big part of this feud with AJ slamming LA Knight in the back a couple times, once on SmackDown and once during Elimination Chamber. But even without that, I thought the match was solid. I really enjoyed it. I'm probably going to go back and watch it a couple of times. Yeah.
So yeah, before we wrap up our WrestleMania 40 recap, I just want to say a couple numbers here that WWE had put out today. First of all, the fact that WrestleMania 40 was up 40% in viewership from last year, which to me is just incredible. The other number is, and I don't know if you read this number, Josh, because it just came out before the show. This is from at WrestleOps on Twitter. I'm going to go ahead and read the tweet directly. WrestleMania 40 is now Peacock's most streamed entertainment event of all time. Across both nights, the show was viewed for 1.3 billion minutes over the weekend, resulting in the second biggest usage weekend for Peacock of all time, ranking only behind the NFL wildcard game.
So let me just say this. In the lead up to WrestleMania and on the post show or whatever, for both nights, ESPN was uploading YouTube content from WrestleMania. So this just adds to my speculation. I know Monday Night Raw is moving to Netflix next year, but I still believe there's a route where WWE eventually moves their content to ESPN. I really believe that
I
could
don't
be a thing.
see it. I think if anything, and Triple H sort of alluded to this in his night two press conference, there's a world where Netflix takes over instead of Peacock.
Interesting.
Um, I think WWE is going to stay in the streaming game. I think that they want their fans to have an accessible product. I don't think WWE fans will ever pay for $50, $60, whatever it is, for pay per view again. By the way, fun fact: WrestleMania is still available on pay per view. At least it was for my cable provider. If you wanted to pay $70 for those boomers, like a couple people in my family that don't understand streaming. Um, but it just goes to show what I've been saying all along is that WrestleMania is really not for the hardcore fans. As much as disappointed as that may be to hear, WrestleMania is about everybody. It's why some of the results that we wanted may have not happened. It's why some of the stuff that happened maybe does not make sense. It's why they bring in somebody like Snoop Dogg to do commentary and admit he's high, basically live on commentary. Because WrestleMania is really an extravaganza. It is the showcase of the immortals. And I want to give a big shout out before we wrap it up tonight to Samantha Irvin. She did an incredible job over the 2 nights ring announcing. I think even over Howard Finkel now, she has cemented herself as the best ring announcer in WWE history. And I also want to say a shout out to Michael Cole, Pat McAfee, Corey Graves. Those three guys on commentary were always magic, but I thought they did a beautiful job over the weekend of explaining just the little things to the audience and giving people that may not watch WWE a lot some little cues and giving some additional stuff to the people like us that have been watching for the year, things that we did not know about individual matches. So those were the unsung heroes of the event. And as Michael Cole said to wrap up the broadcast Sunday night, damn it, I love professional wrestling.
Yeah, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan. We've got AEW Dynasty coming up on April 21st. Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay in what is going to be a fantastic match. We've got Samoa Joe versus Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Championship. Um, we just had Trent Beretta turn heel on Orange Cassidy, which I had been calling for a while. So I am now 3 for 3 because I correctly predicted that it would be Hangman versus Swerve versus Samoa Joe at AEW Revolution. I correctly predicted that it would be LA Knight versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania. And I correctly predicted that Trent would turn heel on Orange Cassidy. So, yeah, AEW's on fire. I don't like that they're getting into this whole CM Punk stuff. I'm not a fan of it. But luckily, I don't have to watch it because I'll be working the Cavs game on Wednesday against the Memphis Grizzlies.